Ago, in this beautiful room of the Royal Bank of Canada, the 5 nominees for this year's Charles Taylor Prize for Literary Nonfiction were announced. Now, 5 weeks later, they are all here in Toronto to talk about the prize and, more importantly, their nominated books. And the nominees are, from my right and going to my left, Wade Davis for his book, Into the Silence, The Great War, Mallory, and the Conquest of Everest. Charlotte Gill, who yesterday afternoon won the BC Award, and now she's here for her book, Eating Dirt, Deep Forest, Big Timber, and Life with a Tree Planting Tribe. J.J. Lee, who wrote The Measure of a Man, the story of a father, a son, and a suit. Madeline Sonic, who wrote Afflictions and Departures. And last but not least, Andrew Westall, who wrote The Chimps of Fauna Sanctuary, a Canadian story of resilience and recovery.
Toronto for media. So they have all come in from vastly different places. As you've read, many of them are from the West. So there has been one. Where do you actually live at?
Right here.
There you go. It was misrepresented in a Toronto newspaper. So you've driven in from Etobicoke. There you go.
I live 5 minutes from here, but I've just come in from BC, which makes it even more awkward.
Thank you all for coming and giving up your Valentine's Day. I know Steve Weir has an amazing schedule that you're all on, so it's a bit of a media trip. And obviously you can see that we're in a room that is definitely not my living room. It's a room that's provided with the good auspices of our partners, RBC Wealth Management. And we started working with them together and arranging tours for our writers who had won. And from that moment on, we started realizing there was a synergy between us, and nowhere was that more apparent in the person I'm going to introduce, BJ Palmer from RBC Wealth Management. Working with him is a pleasure and a dream, and it makes evenings like this just a snap of the finger. BJ.
Thank you, Noreen, and I would echo Noreen's comments. It's been a pleasure working with you and, frankly, the rest of the Charles Taylor Foundation family. I've gotten an opportunity, or had the opportunity, to work with this group now for just over a year and have met the past 2 years' winners. Phenomenal group of people, and you know, what warms my heart is when my 11-year-old boy picks up books and is reading them. And I know I've got a stack right now of the 5 shortlisted authors sitting on my table. I'm trying to feverishly get through all of them. But it's important to my wife and I that we leave that mark with our son. So thank you all for what you do, and I think it's important that we continue to support that as an organization. It just helps further what we believe in, and obviously what you do. And I too am a West Coaster, so I know most of you are up here, and welcome. So thank you, Noreen.
Thank you, BJ.
Totally crushing. And it was crushing to me personally, because I just spent 10 weeks getting to know Tom, learning his entire story, 33 years in a laboratory, but the only chimp at fauna who was wild caught. So he had 3 years with his mother in Equatorial Africa before he was taken across the ocean. And, you know, the first time Tom got to see the world unmediated by the bars of a cage was when they opened up the islands at fauna. They devised these islands where they could go out and run, and there was a tree. And the moment Tom went outside after 33 years in the laboratory, he ran straight to the base of the tree and climbed it. And it's stories like that writing this book proved to me the value of narrative and storytelling in us all connecting with each other and understanding each other. Because
across Tibet, 4,000 miles as part of an ecological survey in the spring of 1996. We passed Everest during that fateful month when the debacle happened that John Krakauer so powerfully wrote about. And with me was a friend of mine, Daniel Taylor, who was a grandson of medical missionaries, whose father had been a close friend of Howard Somerville, who was Mallory's closest friend on the mountain. And the next fall, Dan and I were back on the east face of Everest, the cantling face, trying to photograph clouded leopards and those sort of elusive holiday cats. We got caught in unusual snow and we felt we might be trapped in the Gamma Valley for the winter. And Dan just began to speak of these Englishmen dressed in tweeds who read Shakespeare to each other in the snow at 23,000 feet.
That it's a subculture, it's a way that people are with each other that's really born of the circumstances. A lot of the time we have no technology, we're out in the middle of nowhere, and we're dependent on each other for safety. Perhaps not for survival, because we are so, with helicopters and satellite phones, we're only a phone call away from getting help. But really, if you hurt yourself, you are dependent on the person next to you to come and help you. And I think that we feel this kind of bond because of that. And also, at the end of the day, because we have so little distraction, it's like getting into a time machine and going back to, say, an era before the Industrial Revolution, where when the chores were done and the food was cooked, all we have left is a campfire and just these amazing conversations. We get through the superficial stuff really quite quickly, and then after that, people have really honest, quite raw conversations.
And then people were going, well, what are you doing? And I actually didn't know what I was doing. I had this interest in suits, and I was pursuing it through book knowledge, reading, Russell Smith of, Toronto, and gathering these little things and trying to create some sort of sartorial knowledge. And then I remembered that my father was that template, was that point of origin for me. And that I forgot how great a dresser he was. And I started thinking back to all those, the images and the baubles and the little gems of sartorial knowledge that he tried to impart on me. And at some point I stopped listening to him, and it was actually a war about style. And so he was there, he was always there, I just didn't know.
I was 16, in England. And I think when my father died, when I was 14,